All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to get things going. Today is Monday, January 26th. We're here for a regularly scheduled town council meeting, and I just want to say from the get-go, we understand the weather outside is not ideal. It's not great. We appreciate you all in attendance. In light of that, we're going to try to move through these agenda items fairly quickly, and I'll try to get you in and out of here as quick as we can. But first order of business, as always, is pledge of allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is the land acknowledgement statement. The town of South Kingstown pays homage to the indigenous people and land on which the town is now located. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of our ongoing efforts to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Narragansett tribe whose land and water we benefit from today. Next on the agenda is the roll call.
Council President McEntee.
Here.
Council Vice President Marin.
Here.
Councilmember Bergner.
Here.
Councilmember Alley.
Here.
Councilmember Wedgemont.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. It's going to move us to item 4, approval of minutes of previous meetings.
Motion to approve items 4A, B, and C.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. It's now going to bring us to item 6. We have no appointments tonight, so we're skipping over item 5. 6 is the consent agenda.
If I can ask to separate out item A, I've already filed a recusal on that one with the clerk.
All right, do I hear a motion on 6A?
Motion to approve item 6A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes 4-0 with one recusal. Do I hear a motion on
Motion.
item 6, the rest of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve items 6B through F.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. It's now going to move us to item 7, licenses. A is a resolution granting a road race license to Broad Rock Middle School PTO to conduct the Broad Rock Middle School Coyote Chase 5K and 1 mile fun run road race fundraiser on Saturday, March 28, 2026 at 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., subject to execution of a hold harmless agreement indemnifying the town and a certificate of insurance naming the town as an additional insured for the event. Application by Jessica Domack. Jessica, welcome. No worries. You could just push the button on the right.
The button on the right and the red light will come on. Then you got to get closer to the mic.
User, not user error. Can we just be loud?
No, it won't get picked up.
Hello?
Oh, okay, there we go. So this is the same road race that we've done. I'm Katie Garvin. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Broad Rock PTO. This is the same road race. I think this is going to be year 11, maybe. It existed in advance of COVID. Then it took a break. This is our 4th year being back since COVID. It's the same, deal as pre-COVID, and pretty much the same this year. It's a tiny bit earlier, just because Easter falls so much earlier this year. So we're hoping that it's not like this outside, fingers crossed, but we've been attracting a hearty group the last few years. It's mostly just people who are connected to the community, the Broad Rock Middle School community. We would love if more people came out for it. That'd be so great. It's a walk or a run. There's a mile, there's a 5K. All of the proceeds are going to things that we're are offsetting for the school department, right? So these types of funds, which I think we raised like between $6,000 and $7,000 last year, we pay for all of the field trips, we pay for enrichments at the school, we pay for things like at teacher appreciation, we fund, like snacks for the dances, stuff like that.
An
Snacks
author
for,
visit?
an author visit, stuff for, like snacks for the kids during state testing, stuff like that. So it's for additional things that are not going to go into the school budget or, wouldn't be able to be in the budget. So hopefully we'll get a good turnout. I think, was one of you there? I feel like somebody was there last year. Maybe not. Maybe I'm confused. I think we had a couple of school committee members last year, which was fun. So look it up. It's on Run Sign Up if you're interested. And we'd love to have as many people from town there as possible.
Motion to approve item 7A.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Good luck. I'm sure it'll be great.
Go Coyotes.
Thank you, Katie.
All right, it's now going to move us to item 8, public comments. Anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on any matter, I invite you to come on up. We just ask that you identify yourself, and we're going to limit you to 5 minutes. When you begin speaking, this timer will begin counting down from 5 so you can sort of gauge yourself. With that said, first come, first serve. Come on up. Come on up, Bob.
Looks like you're at Bob.
You can blame the weather today, Bob.
That's the one, I guess. It looks like I've got something prepared, that's not it. I wrote a couple of notes down before I came over, and I just thought I'd mention it. Why am I here? Why do I keep coming? I think I've tried to make it pretty plain that my objective is, this is the only way that I feel I can address somebody in the public other than my personal friends and people that I talk with outside. Maybe there'll be a day when a lot more people listen to the town council, because we might have a day when we really need to be listening to the town council more often. But anyway, sorry. Stephen Miller, a statement he made today. He called Alex a would-be assassin. Okay. Now, I presume that there's only a few people here today, but it's hard to miss seeing the video, and it's hard to miss some of the documentary evidence about who this man was that was murdered. I consider it murder, just as the young lady that was trying to get away from moving the car was shot in the face, and that was murder in my mind. And if certain things weren't available and the videos weren't taken, they would have been brushed right under the rug so fast you wouldn't even know what happened. But fortunately, there is a group now of citizens in this town too, because I saw them by the bridge on Saturday. I should be with them. Anyway, so we have the public has awoken to the fact that our country is deteriorating with its way of dealing with people and giving people what we consider the rights of every person in the every person, not only citizens of our country. All people should be getting respect and being treated well. And as said over and over on the TV, we've always had the right to protest in this country. And you can do it loudly. There's nothing wrong with it loudly. Well, we see what's happened because people are obviously being treated in such atrocious ways right in front of our eyes. I just wondered, how long is it going to take? And in Minneapolis, I have to give the people there a lot of credit because it's cold over there and they're out and they're making their voices heard. But I believe even in South Kingstown, even though we're not in Minneapolis, I think we should be writing some things up like referendums and things that indicate a stand on treatment of others. Because apparently we've lost our way. There's a lot. I listen to Washington Journal every morning too, and I do my little exercises now. I'm trying to get myself in a little better shape, so I'm not just sitting there listening to all these people from all over the country expressing their opinions. But there are some opinions that are pretty hard to swallow. What people feel is okay. I already mentioned a few weeks ago that the murdering of these people in these boats that was done strictly as an excuse for taking over the oil in Venezuela. That's obvious to everybody now, too, isn't it? You don't have to be a mental giant. That's one, and I'm not. So if I can figure these things out completely easily, and I think if I had somebody do a little more research for me, I think I could prove every single thing. You know, they did the boats. Over 100 people were killed in those boats. We don't know who these people are. We polluted the water with drugs. We made oil spills. They could have captured these boats if they tried, but this was a stunt. And Trump realized that doing this kind of thing, some people like it. Oh, look what we're doing. You know, well, we're killing people for nothing when we don't have to. Whenever we don't murder people just for the fun of it. But that's what's going on, and it's going on in more places than that. I mean, I'm not even getting into all of the other stuff with what they've done with the people that they take away. You've heard of the news. The other one, the invasion, I already said that about the oil. I shouldn't look at notes because I just wrote 3-4 things in a row down.
Hey,
Elon Musk, I'll just say this one last thing. I watched him, he was interviewed today, and they asked him, well, what's your last word? Do you have a last word to say to us? I thought it was a simplistic thing that he said, but it was good. He said, well, I'd rather be positive, because when you're wrong, if you're wrong, well, you might be wrong, but if you're negative and you're wrong, it's not so good. You know, I don't know, I didn't say it quite that way. I got it written down, but I'm over time, right?
Thank you, Bob.
Okay. Pray for our country.
Okay, if anyone else in the audience wishes to speak, I invite you to come on up. All right, seeing none, we're going to move down to new business. Item 9A, Terry Murphy, come on up.
Good evening. This item is for the council to consider authorizing the town manager to reestablish and renew a 3-year memorandum of understanding with the town of Narragansett for fair share fees for the senior services program. Some of you may recall that this was established 3 years ago. The current MOU will expire June 30th, 2026. We are planning, obviously we're budgeting now, and what we'd like to be able to do is start the conversation with Narragansett again for the renewal of this MOU. The manager has notified the town manager in Narragansett that we would be starting the process with the council. And just to remind you, our senior program for many, many years has had a regional working partnership with the town of Narragansett for providing senior services to their residents and South Kingstown residents. That goes back decades now. At one time, it included multiple services, adult day services, which is now a third-party contract with St. Elizabeth's, so that's off the table, and also nutrition services, which was the daily meal program, but Narragansett now has their own congregate meal site as well for seniors. So they have evolved over the years to having established a program in their community, but we still provide services to a great number of Narragansett residents through our activities and programs that take place at the senior center. And for that reason, we'd like to continue with a memorandum of understanding to move forward with a regional program between Narragansett and South Kingstown.
Good.
I was just going to make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Just a quick question. Narragansett's been working, and you mentioned they've got their own meal program now. Is that affecting the numbers of their residents that are participating in ours?
That's a good question, and actually I was talking to Susan DeMasi today about that. Not with the meal program so much. We have regulars that attend the South Kingstown Center, some of whom are transported to the center. Narragansett has residents that attend their program. It doesn't have a great deal of impact on our meal site. And this particular MOU does not reflect that because this only involves programs, activities, educational programs, appointments with the community information specialist, those types of things that Narragansett residents can take part in.
The reason I'm asking the question is because I wondered if it's going to have an impact on your budget.
On this budget?
Yeah.
It could. It depends on how the conversation goes with Narragansett. Now, we're not, we understand that they have started to establish their own program at their community center. So we're cognizant of that, but our position is that we still feel like we provide services that are not otherwise provided currently through their program.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I'm just looking at the meals and the center newsletter, and two things. The meals look amazing. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at the menu. They look incredible. And the second thing is, I was going to actually talk to Jim about Mahjong, because I feel like there's a lot of interest in the community for Mahjong, and I see that you're doing it a couple days a week. Can you push your newsletter out more widely to social media so that it gets because I've seen a lot of people ask, where can I learn to play Mahjong?
It's very trendy right now.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's really trendy. So I didn't know if the library wanted to host it. I didn't see Laurel here, but maybe either talk to Laurel and Tim Murphy to see if it could be a program that the library runs, but I also see that the senior center runs it, so.
Just for 30 seconds, I'm going to
sure.
let Sue explain.
We run it, we have twice a week full, but you have to know how to play. It's kind of like the bridge people, you have to know how to play. We provide lessons to women once a year in April. That's all they can do it because they don't live here in the wintertime.
Okay.
But we have, right now, we have 17 people on the waiting list for lessons. So if anybody knows anyone who wants to teach, it is we do charge for it, but we can't find someone who will teach it. So, yeah, but yes, it is very, very popular.
Yes, I was going to talk to Jim about it, but the storm kind of got in the way of all of this on Monday, but I think it's a definite, I feel like people are asking where I can learn to play it, so we need to figure that out. So I'll follow up with Jim.
Yeah, the problem is that we have too many people who want to take the lessons and not enough spots, because they'll only take 15 people for the lessons so that people can learn. So that's why we need another instructor. So we've put it out there to all of our people,
Okay.
and, yeah, very popular.
I'm going to follow up, because I feel like that's a community need that we
We'll
probably
be
need
looking
to
at
meet.
that also through the Guild programming. So
That's what Mike's telling me on the side, too.
we've had conversations on that topic, because we've recognized that there are people who want to learn how to play Mahjong.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. It's now going to move us to item B. Mark Russo, come on up.
Good evening. This resolution is for the asphalt shingle roof replacement at the Peacedale Library. That's to be funded through the Peacedale Library Community Learning Center Services Expansion Grant Project, if that's not a mouthful. So I do have to ask the council if they could amend the resolution here, because the resolution does not include the contingency amount. This is the first project I've done the new software, and it lists the contingency on the software on the homepage here, but it did not include it in the resolution.
All right, Amy, procedurally here, should we amend it, vote to amend it, and then vote to pass it?
You can discuss it with the contingency amount and just approve the resolution as amended. The agenda does indicate including contingency, so for notice purposes, it's okay.
All right. Any questions for Mark on this?
No, motion to approve item 8B?
Second.
Is that where we
9B.
are? 9B? Sorry,
As amended?
as amended.
As amended.
All right. Motion to approve this item as amended. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, it's going to bring us to item C. I work for the law firm that represents Nancy Beals. Because of that, I will be recusing from this item. I'm going to hand it over to Vice President Mike Marin.
And we have counsel for the applicant. And just before you start, yeah, the right-hand button, the red light's on, you're good. Just for the benefit of the council members and the public, this item is a request for order of notice of public hearing. It's not a decision on the substantive application tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Marin. Very well said. We're here just requesting that we be put on your public hearing agenda at a future meeting. It needs to be advertised for 3 weeks, so that would be my request to do it a month from now so that we can get the advertising out and done. I'd be happy to accept any questions the board members may have.
Do you want to describe the application, what
I'm
the
happy
request
to.
is?
Yes, so it's a portion of Green Hill Road, or Green Hill Avenue. I call it an artifact. It's effectively a driftway. It's not the primary portion of the road. In fact, you only would know it exists if you were to look at the GIS map. It's effectively a paper road that extends well into Green Hill Avenue, the private property. It is, our goal is to have the terminus mirror the other side. So we're not going to affect the terminus in any way. The area that we're talking about is about 150, 200 feet away from the end of the road where people go to the beach and people use as a public access point. The application that I submitted, you'll notice it's a little stubway. It's about 20 feet wide and 100 feet long. And if you go down there and take a look at it, you can't get to it like a lot of paper roads because of some public, some items I think that were placed there by DPW, Public Works Department over the years. There's a mailbox. It was originally to access, in my opinion, 2 smaller lots that have since been merged into other lots and don't exist anymore. It was an artifact from a 1915, we have to do that now with our teen years, plat map that was recorded back in 1915. So that's what we're going to be asking, is that the town abandon a small portion of paper road that serves no public purpose anymore.
I just want to make sure I heard you right. 1915, 1-5?
1-5, yes.
Thank you.
So I don't know where your hometown is, or if you're aware of the community value that we have about coastal access.
Very much aware and very much an advocate for myself. I actually had the pleasure of going to URI and their joint degree program with Roger Williams, and being a Sea Grant fellow, and one of my projects was working on public access points for small towns, and actually in the East Bay, but having grown up here in Narragansett and South Kingstown, I understand the value of public access points. And that's actually, I put in our application that we're not going near the terminus, and which is the end of the road and the right of the public to use roads that end in and go into the public trust land permanently as public access points. It's actually something that Coastal Resources Management Council needs to do a little better job of advocating and broadcasting out to the world, and we are not going near that.
So as I understand it, you're telling me that there's a 20-foot wide, 150-foot piece of property that you just want us to abandon and give to the property owner?
We want to, I would say, yes, I want to codify what has been in existence since the 50s. From my look at the overflights, this area, this portion of Paper Road has not been utilized by the public since the 50s.
So I don't know where we were trying to get some parking down in Green Hill. That's not that street. I don't know that street. Okay. So this is just an order of notice. Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm not going into great detail. I'll have experts here. I'll have a historical presentation. When we have the public hearing, it'll be a much more informative and fact-based presentation.
So last week I did ask Jim how this appears on the agenda, and Jim, do you want to explain how this item, because I would assume that people who live on paper streets, and there are a number of them, could follow and would want to know why we're doing this.
I'll give you my brief explanation, then I'll turn it over to legal counsel to go over. So I asked Mike Ursillo that same question, and he said because of the way it was filed by a petition, that the only people that could make a decision, yes or no, would be the town council. So Amy had met with their legal attorneys, and she can go over more with that if you'd like.
By statute, it does have to, a proposed abandonment does have to be advertised in the newspaper for 3 successive weeks, and the statute also provides that personal notice be served on the owners abutting the portion of the roadway that's proposed to be abandoned. The council, before the public hearing, can feel free to refer this matter to the tax assessor for an evaluation of the fair market value. The council can feel free to refer it to Public Services for their opinion on, coastal access. And if the council wishes, it can refer it to the planning board as well.
And alternatively, we are not required to have a public hearing, correct?
The statute doesn't require you to set a public hearing.
So all of those alternatives, evaluate the land, notify the abutters, do all those other things, or we could say, we're not inclined to abandon the road, we're not going to have a public hearing.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Amy? And I don't want to get into the substance of the request, but procedurally, one aspect of the application that I read was that they're requesting that we not only abandon it, but essentially turn over title to them. What I'm concerned about, you had mentioned notice to the abutters. On this strip of land, there is another property. Has that, if I understand it correctly, your client owns lot 96-225.
My client owns the entire strip on, I think it's the western side of the roadway.
Right. On the eastern side, there's 96-243.
Correct, and I defer. I'm happy to send a notice to them, but the way the statute I read it is the butters directly touching or the direct abutters to the portion to be deemed abandoned. So the folks on the other side of the street are not touching the section that we're asking to be abandoned. But if your legal counsel suggests, or if you would prefer it, I'm happy to send them a notice to the folks on the other side of the roadway.
All right. It may very well just be the way I'm looking at the diagram, and we can do that in the course of the hearing.
Yep.
But it seems to me, independent of what the applicant does, we should be providing notice to this other property owner.
Yes, typically the council arranges for the newspaper advertisement, and typically for abandonments, it's the applicant's responsibility to notify property owners.
I hear your request, Mr. Marin.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just wondering, as the council is charged with making decisions to benefit the town, I'm just wondering what the upside of this request is for the town.
If it's a public road, it requires public services. It requires, it takes on liability and maintaining it. All the reasons why that their off towns often don't want or get rid of public roads. And
read the reasons. I do. Okay.
Yeah, so you mentioned that this is a paper road. Is that your opinion?
Yes, in colloquial terminology, it is currently not paved. It's not been maintained, in my opinion, since the 50s.
Okay, and this has not been paved since the 50s, right? According to me,
and I looked at some overflights, which I think I included in the application.
No, I read the application. Yeah, I'm just a few questions, if I may. Thank you. So it's been 50 years. How long has the current occupant owned this property that this road is on?
The family has owned that for going back to the 50s, into that era, when the lots were merged. There were 3 smaller lots, and the family bought them and merged them over time, and it has remained that's in the same family since then, the Beals
Okay,
family.
so just correct me on the timeline. So the current owners had it since the 50s, the 1950s, and it was different lots.
Correct.
And then 50 years ago, which is the 1970s, this road was built?
No. The road was constructed in 1915 when the area was
1915.
platted. 1915, 1-5.
Yep, I hear you. Yeah.
And then there were 4 small lots across the front of this, I'm going to call it driftway. And over time, one family bought them, primarily back in the 40s and 50s. And since then, it has effectively been a paper road, because the reason the road was built, the public purpose of the road was to reach each of these smaller lots, which have since disappeared as the lot has been in one family's ownership since approximately the 1950s.
And that garage that's on 96-2-225, is that on the road? There's a two-door garage that's on the edge of the road.
That's on the edge of the portion we're talking about here, at the end of the paper road?
Yeah, on page...
I just don't have the application in front of me, I apologize.
Sure. Well, if it's on your page 7 of your application.
Yes, that's the site plan, correct?
Washington County, let's see here, the GIS.
It's the GIS overlay, yes.
That's right, yeah.
So that is where you drive 100 feet into the property. Where you drive is 100 feet plus away from that garage.
Right, so what you're describing is, the dirt road that on Green Hill Avenue, right?
Yes.
And then the paper road, you're calling it, you pull into that, and then you're saying 10 feet by 100 feet, driving that way, and then there's a garage, two-door garage door.
Yes.
That's what we're looking at there?
Yes.
And so is that garage on the road?
No, the garage, no.
It's at the edge of the road?
It's all of the structures are currently on the lot. And we have a site plan, and I believe it's included in your plan, that shows with a survey that where there's no encroachment into the roadway currently.
Okay. I appreciate you going through this with me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize
okay.
you were looking at the physical overflight.
Solicitor, we don't often get abandonment questions, and I'm a new council member, so you'll have to excuse me for my questions. Councilors, I'm in favor of sending this to the planning board and to check out how much this was cost and worth before we schedule a hearing on this.
I'm just not inclined to abandon a road near the coast for coastal access for the community. So if you want to send it along.
I would agree with Councilwoman Bergner on that. I mean, it seems like it would cost us a lot of money to figure out what this is worth, and I'm not really sure what the upside is for us, other than...
Well, I think, first off, we're here on an order of notice for hearing. I understand Councilman Wedgemont's concern about getting further information. My own preference would be to do it the other way around. Have the public hearing on the substance, and then if we feel we need to, and get additional questions answered by planning or other departments, to do it then. I mean, this has literally been sitting around for decades. I don't think a little extra time would hurt, but getting the substance of the applicant's view up front, I think would be more helpful to planning or whoever else.
I'm just not inclined to use staff resources in something in this way, that we've tapped them out to do lots of things, and if we feel that we wouldn't abandon this road because we want to maintain public access, why would we have the staff, the tax assessor's office, legal, planning, go through all of the work when we know that we don't want to abandon the road? That's all. I appreciate like the due diligence part, but why put our staff through that?
Yeah, I agree with that also. It seems like an exercise in wasting staff resources, and I just am struggling to see the upside for the community that values access to the water.
So what I'd like an opportunity is to, at the very least, explain to you why this will in no way impact coastal access to the water, and it won't. And I'd like an opportunity to present that to you, and to go through with my experts all the questions you've asked me about how the benefits to the town, all of those things. Like a little bit of your time in a town council meeting to make that presentation.
So I'll just follow up on why I made the suggestion, and not what Vice President Marin says. These folks are doing the way that they're supposed to do it, right? They have what they call a paper road, but it's a town road on their property. They're trying to do the right thing. I don't think that fundamentally we all agree with abandoning town roads, but I think that the due diligence of the town is to see why this happened in the first place, right? Either bureaucratic negligence or no, just forgetting about it, right? We haven't, that Green Hill Avenue goes all the way down, and this road goes on their property. Why isn't it paved, right?
There are many paper streets in town.
Right, but this solicitor is describing it as a paper street. Is it a paper street? Is it technically a paper street?
It's a paper street if it's a public street that hasn't been improved. My suggestion would be to schedule this for hearing so the council can get full information. As I said, if the council wants to refer it to the tax assessor, public services, or planning, that's standard practice when this comes up, when requests for abandonment come up.
As part of the public hearing, to have the staff review it in the meantime?
So I'm inclined to make a motion to not accept this resolution. I make a motion that we decline to publish an order of notice.
I would respectfully disagree with your solicitor
So is there a
that you
second?
don't have an
I would
obligation
second that.
to put this forward. I would suggest that you absolutely have an obligation to hear our application.
What's your basis to say that we're obliged to hear it?
The way the statute is written, Mr. Marin, upon an application being submitted, that it will be ordered to advertising for 3 successive weeks in the newspaper.
So I asked.
The town council of the town is authorized to so declare it by an order or decree. Authorized doesn't mean shall, means may.
That you may grant it, yes, but I disagree that you don't have a right to schedule it for a hearing. We can have a disagreement on it, that's all.
So Rory's not here, but I made a motion, Patty seconded. Whatever you
We have a
want.
motion, we have a second discussion.
So we don't think it's worth asking our tax assessor how much this is worth.
There's not an offer to buy it. It's like, just abandon the road and we'll deed it into our property.
No.
So,
1 second, sir.
yes, Mike. He can't talk while we're talking, right?
Sorry.
No,
did
I
you wanna-
refer it to your counselor, please.
You have counsel representing you.
So I don't think it's a waste of taxpayer money. I don't think we have the systems that can pretty easily, quickly get that data, right? I mean, it's not a crazy amount of resources, but I do understand where you're both coming from.
I'm just not inclined, in matters of public access, I'm not going to be the town council member to give back something that the town owns, that we don't know what we're going to need at any point. Mike, I think of Mike when we talk about climate change, erosion, I'm not inclined I'm not inclined to go down this road and spend hours of research time, my time, and have another public hearing. He's already bringing experts and all of this. I just know how I feel, and I feel like I represent the community who would say, please do not cede over public access to a private owner.
Sure.
That's all.
And
So-
nor am I advocating that.
I know you're not.
You know I'm not advocating that.
I know you're not.
Right? We're on the same page there.
I mean, just the notice of this has, I don't know about anybody else, but the community
Yep.
is up in arms about this. I mean, this is not something that we've gotten positive feedback about at all.
So this is someone's driveway that's been someone's driveway since the 1950s. It is not a public access point. It's not been open to the public. As your statute says, its public usefulness has not existed for 75 plus years. It's not a matter of coastal access. It's near the water, but it's not a matter of coastal access. It doesn't go near the water. There's nothing in this that would suggest that it allows, that the public has used it in the last 75 plus years. I'd like an opportunity to put that on the record.
Deb?
So I just want to go back to, this is a request from the private sector to give public land to them. If we're not inclined to do that, for any reason or whatever reason, we can just vote no. I mean, I've been on the council a long time. This is a very highly unusual request. We've never had a request for an abandonment. You know, however it's being used doesn't mean that's okay, right? It's town land, and they're asking for it for free, and it's in a coastal access area. So I'm just not inclined to go down that road. The public is very well aware of this. It just doesn't align with the values that I think we all hold.
Go on, please. Sorry. No, please.
I was just going to try and wrap it up. I haven't addressed the substantive aspect of this yet, but we will take a vote on the motion. But to put my 2 cents worth in on this aspect of the debate, I think anytime a resident puts in an application to the town council requesting pretty much anything, we have an obligation to take it up. I think there's the procedure and then there's the substance. Procedurally, I don't see the harm in having a hearing. If we're going to get into the substance, I've already mentioned the issue about the other abutter.
Understood.
You call it a paper road, and at other times you referred to it as the driveway.
A driftway.
Okay, I thought I heard driveway at some
You
point.
definitely said driveway
It's
up
been
here.
used as a driveway by the property owner.
That
It's the
lang-
only person who drives on it. That's what I said.
That language itself
That's town property.
raises questions, how a driveway came to be in a public road, whether it's paper or not. That's a question that needs to be answered.
Understood.
But the way to get the answer is to have a public hearing and to hear from our staff about where this situation is, and then for the town to figure it out. Substantively, I think I have some significant issues with what your client is asking for.
Understood.
But me personally, I don't see a harm in having the hearing. I think that's part of what government does.
I can call the question. We've had conversation.
I'll just say one last thing.
Fair.
Last thing I'll say. The reason I'm asking these questions, I think there's a due process that you deserved, but not, it's not mandatory. This council has a right to not give you it does, by town charter, right? And in fact, if we had a hearing, if we voted for a hearing, I would ask you a lot of pointed questions, like why you keep calling it a paper road when it's not really a paper road. And why, I'm not questioning, I'm just saying these are some of the questions that would come up. Like how is there a driveway at the end of a town road, right? Can you understand how the fact that just because they've been using it as a driveway for the past 50 years, that, you know, precedence does come up in, you know, usage, right?
Yes.
You know, so,
It just seems like a private property owner is trying to take land through adverse possession. That's what it sounds like. We've always done this, we've always used this for 50 years, and now we want to make it real. So there's a motion, there's a second, we can vote.
Has everybody had enough to say?
Yes.
All right. And for what it's worth, one of the things I remember from law school is adverse possession does not run against the sovereign.
Right.
So there's no adverse possession.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
Be that as it may, we have a motion to deny the application for order of notice of hearing. All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to deny.
Yeah,
To
motion to
deny.
deny. Aye.
All those opposed? I vote nay. Motion carries.
I strongly disagree with that you have the authority to do that, members of the council, but thank you for the time this evening. I'll confer with your council, and we'll be back in front of you. Thank you.
D.
Next item on the agenda is item 9D. Do we have anyone here on that tonight?
All right, so for this item, we're going to hand it over to Councilmember Jay Wedgemont. We know that Sharon Henderson is not in attendance, but if you just want to say a few words, then we could go to Jim, just talk about sort of process going forward, dealing with this. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilors, on the agenda, there's about 7 documents that were, or actually, sorry, more of like 15 documents about the monument that you can take a look at. We had many people come up at the last town council meeting talking about how great this would be for our veterans that were Native Americans and African descent in South Kingstown. And I think it'll be a great part of the 250, and I'll hand it off to Jim.
Jim, go ahead.
Sharon Henderson approached me over a year ago with this project. I thought it was a good idea then. I still think it's a good idea, and I think the council has shown that they also think it's a good idea. But there are some things that I told Sharon a year ago that I will repeat now, that if this moves forward, it has to be done a certain way, because could be state funds, it could be, there's a process we have to follow. So I don't think there's any dispute that this is a good idea, but I think these are the rules that should be followed moving forward. One, document sharing, that the town council needs to be presented with all the documents that are regarding this, as it moves forward through the 250th anniversary committee. A process and timeline. There needs to be a process that is discussed openly in public so that the project from the start to the finish, from the concept to the completion, can be transparent and open to the council and everyone involved. What is the timeline? What are the milestones? What are the goals and objectives? Similar to like with us building this school, we have a timeline, goals and objectives, we have funding mechanisms that we already had in place. But I'll get back to the funding. Is there a parallel with past projects, consistency with past projects? The prior project, the one thing that we can compare it to was the public RFQ process that the Ostara sculpture we did with the rabbit over by the Guild, that took 18 months to complete, and was very open, transparent process. How does this project align with or differ from that approach? If you think about the adage, don't try and reinvent the wheel, if we've done it once, could we kind of model this after that without skipping any steps? Then you have the actual monument itself. Site and engineering. Has an engineering review been completed? If so, who completed it, and is there a written report? Very important, next one is historical verification. Has a historian consultant review been completed? Is there a written report on this? When will a verified list of names be shared with the committee and council? And that should be open in case this, the last thing you want is someone's name to be missed on this great monument that people are asking to be built. And fundraising, procurement. Clarify the organization that will serve as the 501c3 fiscal agent And is it noted that the 501c3 be responsible for the contracts? So as it goes through this town and state procurement process. The other thing is funding. Concrete numbers. How much will this cost? How much has been dedicated either through state grants, through the General Assembly or where else? And what is the future ask going to be, whether it's the town or anyone else, on the funding for this project? And finally, a public presentation of the monument should go forward once you get to that point. So those are the things I would recommend, and Terry Murphy, who's a liaison to that committee, has done a tremendous amount of work on that and given me a lot of these bullet points that I just stated. So once again, I think it's a good idea, but this is the process that we should follow.
Thank you, Jim. Obviously, we haven't heard from Sharon Henderson, who we were hopeful that could make it tonight, but I'm sure due to inclement weather, that affected that. But I think we all support this project. I certainly do. From my conversations with other council members, just on this topic, everyone seems to be on the same page as far as supporting this. But we understand that there is a sort of process we have to go down to make sure we accomplish this. As Jim sort of outlined the specifics, hopefully we can just start to move that on track and not have this just sort of still out there and not on a track toward potential completion as some date on the outset there. So Jim, what would sort of be, I know what you said there would sort of is required, but how do we sort of initiate it and move toward that?
If I may, it's unfortunate that Sharon couldn't make it tonight because some of the metrics that Jim outlined, she does have and would have explained to us tonight, but I just wanted to tell you that, some of the work that she's done on this meets those metrics, which is great, right? Solves some of the questions, so.
Sharon is very enthusiastic, and she has the best of intentions, but we all know how, when there's government money involved, whether it's grants or whatever, and that the way, municipal government tries to be as transparent as possible, that many people have a say in the matter, especially the people's names that are going to be, and the families that names are going to be reflected on this monument. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think at some point we should sit with Sharon and, if the council still, wants us to move forward, we could sit with Sharon, go over what we need to do here, and have periodic updates to the council.
When we formed the 250th committee, the council essentially voted in support of having this project go forward. I don't think that's changed in the slightest. I think the metrics you've outlined are good. Couple of things that I would also suggest. I have talked with Christian McBurney, the historian who's volunteering his time to work on this. And the project overall is an effort to correct an historic injustice of people who were left off the town's memorial. I think the idea of having a memorial on school property where the original is as a teaching device is a great idea. But you mentioned the engineering studies. That's going to need to be figured out. The vetting on the process, I think, needs to be more extensive, as you discussed. And some of the stakeholder groups in town need to be brought into the process, and as far as I know, have not yet. We have several veterans groups in town who ought to at least be involved in the process. Many of the descendants whose names are on the list or may be on the list are ancestors of Narragansett tribe members. I don't know that the tribe has formally been, or tribe leadership has formally been approached about it.
They have.
They have. I think that's also significant and important for us to do. And then I also, frankly, like the idea that you mentioned comparing this to the Ostara process. There were 4 different designs, as I recall, that came to this council after an initial vetting process, and I think that's an important part of it too. How this looks when we decide is it's going to be around for 100 years. The original monument was 1932. And there also ought to be some opportunity for public information and public input. I spoke with Erica Luke about this at the South County Historical Society, and she mentioned to me that when the original monument was done, there was a letter to the editor in the Narragansett Times that basically said, if you had a relative who was involved, get us the information and documents by next week. We need something a little bit more elaborate than that. But I think we do need that process too, because there may be people who have trunks in an attic somewhere that have documentation, and it's very difficult to establish something from 250 years ago and what the appropriate criteria are. I think the project is fine, but I think there's a lot more detail that needs to happen.
So what's required now? Just our support to move it forward, or should we be forming a working group, committee? I mean, I think the concept is important and great, and even concept isn't a good word because there's a lot of effort and thought and planning that Sharon's done. But what Mike is saying, and what I also believe, is that there are other stakeholders and other voices that need to be part of the table, and then there's the government process that Jim's bringing to it. So how do we support Sharon and appreciate that she's brought this forward and brought a group of committed people to move it forward? Because that is amazing. I mean, it's really coming not from the top, so to speak, but from the community. So it's a great idea, but it has to, right? It's going to be for 100 years, so we don't want to leave off Tommy Brown when Tommy Brown was in the militia, right? So how do we?
It's a very important project, and we certainly have all been behind it.
So what do we do
since the
next?
very beginning. I mean, there needs to be like a real nonprofit organization, like really, and it's got to be organized that way or through.
Because I do think there might be some grant funds or some,
There
maybe not
are,
under,
but-
right, like if you were pursuing, for lack of a better word, marginalized, invisible, not seen contributions, there must be some organization that would be like, we're going to support the research, we're going to support the sign, or the,
I mean, this is a whole, it's a real.
It could be.
I mean, it could be. Or here comes Terry.
And if I may, I do know that there is a nonprofit that was open to support this monument. Sharon told me that, she was here to explain it. I think the answer for our support and the action we could take, right, because that's what the language on item D is, discussion and potential action relative to support for a new Revolutionary War monument. We could vote to support it and to ask for the town manager's office to sit with Sharon and the local stakeholders that may or may not be activated yet for this. And that could be some of the action to move this forward while making sure we meet the metrics that Terry and Jim outline. But that's just a suggestion.
I agree with that, and then we could get a town manager's report updated at a subsequent meeting as to how the meeting went, what are the plans for next step as far as getting this on track. Terry, what do you got?
I just wanted to come back to some of the documents that were provided to the town council, and in one of the final documents, the request for action, specifically because Sharon and her working group couldn't be here this evening to present to you, were 3 items. The Military History Recognition Work Group respectfully requests that the town council affirm that the companion monument project may proceed at the Hazard School site adjacent to the 1932 Flagstaff Memorial. 2, confirm that the project remains under the stewardship of the South Kingstown USA 250 Semi-Quincentennial Committee through completion. And 3, authorize continued coordination with town staff for plan review and site approval consistent with municipal standards. Those are the 3 items, and what I would just want to clarify is that there's a lot of work that this working group has already done on this, and they did want an opportunity to present because some of the discussion this evening is great input, but I want to make sure that one of the things that this group wanted to do was to be able to present to the council what they already have done. Whether or not that's something the council wants to entertain, maybe it's the next council meeting, maybe.
So do we need to just
So,
table this for
That, I was
another
going
2
to say, I think we
weeks?
should table it because there's even some specifics in what the request is, like, we don't know if that site is going to be,
Right, exactly,
And-
because we gotta have the engineering done to, I
Well,
mean,
just-
it's like chicken and egg.
right?
Just to give my thought here, so this item was requested by Councilmember Wedgemont, so it is not specific to those 3 requests that you just read out loud, Terry. So we
That's
could
right, I'm sorry,
potentially-
good point.
We could vote however we want. We could vote in favor of all those 3. We could vote in favor of less than those 3. We could choose not to take up any of those 3. We could, indicate our interest moving forward with it now. If they want to come back, we're happy to hear from them. We hope they could make it tonight. That's probably the way to go here. And then we can sort of discuss with them what it is they're looking for, and it's not sort of like we're working through a silo of Jim to them and then back to us. At least we can hear from them directly. So perhaps we should just continue this to the next meeting, and hopefully they can attend.
So moved.
All right, we got a
Second.
motion, second, any discussion? Go ahead.
Just a suggestion, there may not, given the items that Jim already listed, plus the things that the council has discussed, our next meeting may not be enough time to get all of that done. My only suggestion would be 45 or 60 days.
I'm not, well, yeah, because table means take it up at the next meeting potentially, but
Well,
do we
continue,
want,
whatever.
do we want to hear from Sharon? That was the whole reason for tabling it. We'd hear a little bit more from Sharon, because we're having a dialogue about what needs to happen, and the people who are going to actually try to bring this project forward for us aren't even here.
I
This
do-
is kind of wasted.
I do want to say, I mean, I think it's the storm, right? It's bad to drive right now, and people,
Right, we
we've had.
want to go home, like.
I'm with you.
right.
Hold on. I think, I want to just echo what Terry said, right? I think a lot of the good questions that this council had about making sure that this monument was done the right way, they've done a lot of that work. It's just that none of them are here to talk about it. They've reached out to the to the Narragansett tribe. They've done a lot of the outreach to veterans. And I think that, in my opinion, I don't think we should table it. I think we should vote action to have the town manager sit down or his team, to sit down and make sure that all the metrics that Jim outlined are being met. That's just my thought. That's all.
I just feel like when we just push it to Jim and over to Jim and say, take care of that, it loses some transparency pieces, right? Are those meetings subject to open meeting laws? Can anyone come and give input and participate if it's just a meeting with Sharon's working group, which is really working, or does it need to be more inclusive? So all I'm saying is we can, in theory, say, yes, we want to explore the monument, because we all want a monument to reflect the contributions of all people in the Revolutionary War, but we don't necessarily want it in a vacuum.
I think,
Right.
there's some good points here. If we support it and we want it to get on the track to hopefully get it to completion nearer than farther, I think it would be direct Jim to meet with Sharon and whoever else team to get them to a point where their checklists are met or items that they need in place are there, so that she can subsequently present to us, here's the plan, here's where we're going, and then she has everything in place where we could say, okay, we support it and let's move forward. Whereas if we just continue it, we're at the same spot we are now, they're not in any place to really be on track to move forward, and then we're just sort of reiterating what we're doing now. So I do think it's probably best for moving the project forward to have Sharon sit with Jim, whatever department heads want to be there, whoever Sharon wants to bring to sort of get this thing moving, and then maybe a month, 45 days, whatever, have Sharon come back to a meeting, whatever directors have assisted, and that way we get a fuller picture. Here's what she wants to do, here's how it's going to get done, and now we say, all right, this is a clear picture, let's move forward. I think that's probably the best way.
I agree with you, because it's not, the action is to have them meet with the town manager's office as opposed to the 3 actionable items that Terry mentioned, right? Which are more specific.
So
What-
before we do that, you haven't weighed in, Jim. What would you like us to do? Because we can send them to you, but if you would prefer a committee or you would prefer the tabling, I think everyone here is interested in what you have to say.
I think the best thing is for me to either sit with Sharon or attend one of the 250th committees and say it in public what I just said to you, and then see if we can get on track with, these are the expectations the council is going to be looking for in moving this project forward. They support it, but this is how it should be done. And then we report back to you, whether with her, without her, whatever we can do. But first thing I agree is I should meet with her at some point somewhere with her crew or attend the 250th.
I like the
committee.
idea of you attending the meeting and saying it in public so that there's no confusion.
Yeah, so I think the next day is the 4th, so I can attend that.
But as an aside, wasn't it the 250th committee that voted to send us those resolutions to support this?
Yes, but then
Right.
Jim is coming back with, these are some of the guidelines and guardrails and things like that, which they may have not heard.
So
Okay.
essentially, before we can take up their 3 requests, we would like them to get a little bit farther on track toward how they're going to do it. And then once they're there, they come back to us, we take up all 3, likely approve it, and then we're on a path to get this done.
Well, one last thing on that, Mr. President. I don't forget this, and that this was Sharon Henderson's idea. It was a good idea. She came to us. No one else came up with this concept. So I think we have to respect, this was her idea, and just guide her on the proper way to accomplish the goal that we've all outlined here tonight. So I'll talk to Sharon this week to see if she wants to meet before a meeting on the 4th. If, maybe attend the meeting. It's probably important for me to go to the meeting anyway at some point. And, but with respect to Sharon, that this was her concept, and try and help her along on what needs to be done to make this a success.
So,
I think that sounds like a great plan, because
So
we
I'm gonna
want her
revoke-
to
Yes.
succeed.
Revoke my motion if it was me, or did
I
you
think
make
it
it?
was,
Yeah, you should revoke it.
I revoked my motion, was it me? And then Patty was the second.
Okay, now there's no longer a motion on the table, but I don't think there needs to be a motion. I think we have a clear indication where we're going here.
Or the potential action relative to support it could be Jim meeting
Let's-
with Patty.
I make a
and-
motion to refer 9D to the town manager.
And then, yes, a second.
Second.
All right, we got a motion, second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you, Jim. It's going to now move us to the town manager's report.
We'll keep this very short, but there are a few things that I would like to just show the council, a couple ideas that came up, and that approval that we can move in a direction that we can move forward with. So I see, Jamie, the first thing you have is the facade improvement program. So I'll just go over some of the numbers that we have real quick. You can ask some questions if you have questions on it. Jamie's handling that project. So there were 19 original application grant recipients. The total value of the original awards, now this money came from the Rescue Plan Act money, was $1,076,937. There were 3 grant recipients that withdrew from the program. The value was $191,825. So right now, we know that we have at least that amount of money to work with for other projects and planning, and still fulfill the needs of spending this money in a timely manner. There are 16 remaining applicants, $867,514 value. 9 projects were completed at $459,514. 3 projects were completed in funding reimbursement in progress and process, $125,500. And 4 projects were granted extensions to July 1st of 2026. So that is the first part of this update on the facade improvement program, but there's a second part that I'd like to bring up. Jamie, can you just show that picture? Okay, so a resident approached me on one of my daily walks down through Main Street, and with a great idea. And he asked me if we ever considered this, and we hadn't, but it is a good idea. So I had Jamie look at it and come up with a possibility. So one thing that this resident stated he thought would be a great improvement to the Main Street was a clock, a big clock, and one that is similar to the one that you see on Bellevue Avenue in Newport, you know, near the mansions over there, that beautiful black and gold clock. So we have the funds, because that's why we gave you the facade improvement update. We have probably around at least a couple $100,000 to work with. Maybe consider getting a clock, a two-sided clock like that, put it somewhere on Main Street that we would bring to the council to decide on. And that Jamie superimposed that picture right there, that clock, and it looks like he superimposed the council president standing there in shorts and flip-flops.
Oh, my God.
Doesn't
Tim,
it?
I got a bad one.
Is that him, Rick? Jamie, is that him? When he was a little younger?
Right?
Oh, there's snow. He's in the snow now.
It did, right?
I think it was.
You should have shorts on there.
All right. So anyway, I think a clock, a two-sided clock, and Jamie agrees, and I think will be a real improvement to the town, right? Maybe write something like Historic Wakefield, or Wakefield South Kingstown on it, or just South Kingstown, or just Wakefield. But, you know, I think you can have some fun with this, but I think it would be a real improvement to the improvements that have already been made on Main Street and the ones that are currently being made. So looking for some type of authorization to move forward with more research on a clock.
Can I just play like the devil's advocate here? So we think it's a nice idea because we're older.
Yep.
And we know how to read clocks. And we know what Arabic numerals are. Kids today mostly only
They're
know how
Roman
to read
numerals.
digital clocks, and they don't know like what the hands do. It's true, and they don't know Roman numerals. But I'm just saying, I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but
So you want me to put a clock up like that?
Well,
over there? No.
I-
No, I mean.
Just saying.
No, listen, we pride ourselves on, we're in a historic town, in a historic district, 1723. That's a historic type clock.
right, I see what you're doing. I agree, but
Maybe for shorthand purposes, we can just refer to these kinds of things as the Mayberry effect.
Yes, that's right. And there's Rory, right
And it
there.
really is. I understand
That's the-
Patty's point, but I don't want to see that clock on Main Street.
Yeah, with a
So,
countdown.
I'm just curious about how they get maintained and all of that. And also, I kind of feel like maybe there's an alternative use than spending $191,000 on clocks.
No, let me just add, it's not $191,000 for a clock. It's much cheaper, anywhere from 15 to 30. Is
How
that
many
what-
clocks?
So
One.
One clock?
A clock is between 15 and 30,000. There's kind of different levels of detail, whether you're buying one kind of off the shelf or you want one done custom, whether you're doing an all aluminum or aluminum and steel combo with some non-metallic materials thrown in there. And most of them, the companies that sell these recommend a annual maintenance arrangement, and those run between $500 and $1,000 annually to make sure your clock's running on time. One of the aspects is if you don't do the maintenance plan, you potentially have a much bigger bill someday in the future. But again, most are running in the $500 per year annual. Again, we
Jamie, let me give him the price.
yeah.
The Post Tower Clock Municipal Grade, which is the highest grade, is a high-quality 16-foot tall cast aluminum clock for city centers, typically costs between $28,600 to $32,500. That would be the goal of the clock.
So, a little expensive. I think that what we've done with the facade project, we just had our Main Street cohort meeting last Friday, the first one, the one that you guys voted me on to, and the exact things they were saying, this council did on the last term and this term, right? Voting for the facade project, that's exactly the kind of stuff that they say to do. So, kudos to this council for doing that, the four of you. The clock, a little expensive, and also I wouldn't want it just in Wakefield. I want one in Peacedale. I would want other parts of towns that we're trying to encourage walkability in to have that clock, so we don't just, that no one just thinks that we're just dumping money onto Main Street. And that's it, right? Because I have gotten some of that feedback from business owners in Peacedale. Hey, why is this not happening down by the Rotary? They're beautiful clocks. This clock is humongous compared to a person, right? It's enormous. But, I mean...
That's a four-sided clock. Those run a lot more than the $32,000.
Makes sense. Page...
The very first one on the elevation
The
drawing.
Victorian, it says?
Yes, the Victorian one.
And then we would be looking at a smaller Howard and a smaller Victorian, I guess?
In all likelihood, looking at the second one from your right, third from the left. Yeah, it's about 6, yeah, if you go left to right, first one's a four-sided Victorian, the second from the left is a larger Victorian, two-sided, and then you get into the third one. So you're somewhere between the third and the second. But again, we wanted to give you a price range of, you're in that higher 20. We would do everything in our effort, do an RFQ or an RFP for companies to respond to that. And again, you don't have to purchase anything until you get the prices in.
Jamie, quick question. So $191,000 worth of the facade improvement granted awards withdrew, so that freed that amount up. Would that be the source of the monies to pay for the clock?
That is some of the items we've discussed internally because we have access to that 191. We also have $350,000 of money dedicated for street improvements for Wakefield and Peacedale that we could access. So there are 2 potential funding sources for that.
And the second source you just mentioned there, that's also ARPA funding?
No, the 350 is from the infrastructure bank. The ARPA funding, we have a little over 9 months and 2 weeks to spend. So again, we're looking for things we could potentially turn around relatively quickly, and this is one of those items we felt we could accomplish.
The infrastructure bank money is fully subsidized?
Fully subsidized, yes.
So we're not paying for this ourselves. This is totally funded through state-provided
State or
aid.
federal funds, correct.
I just feel like there could be some more practical thing that we could use besides a bougie Victorian clock. I'm just gonna say it, like, people are gonna say you bought a clock, couldn't you do like something else? Like, I don't know, maintain something better than a clock?
I mean, I know that there's very specific requirements for how we can spend the money, but given the potential of austerity coming our way, I do feel that the clock could be construed as, sort of frivolous, but it is a lovely clock.
Good.
Can I ask a couple of questions, Jamie?
Sure.
I remember a little over a year ago, the Trump administration tried to claw back our ARPA money, and Brian and the town manager managed to avoid that. Are we limited to this 191 being part of the facade program?
So one of the items that occurred on the finance side within the community is that money that was originally targeted for facade was put in a silo of planning and/or planning department. So our discussions internally have been that we kind of got to stay in that streetscape facade improvement. And just as a reminder, the residents who have spent, your residents and business owners have spent almost $900,000 making improvements to their buildings. That's the grant money that we gave them. That grant money far exceeds over $2 million, and we potentially will be over $3 million of actual improvements on Main Street. This wasn't Mr. Manny and I's idea. We were approached by a member of the business community about potentially doing this. I asked that business entity to reach out to Mr. Manny, which he did. So again, this is coming from people who have participated in the facade improvement program as a potential enhancement of Main Street, and I agree with Mr. Wedgemont, you also have Peacedale too.
But that doesn't quite answer the question. Are we limited to something along the lines of facade improvements, sidewalk improvements, street improvements
I think-
on Main Street.
Improvements to your central business corridor.
Okay.
That's your interpretation, or is that,
Again, the funds and talking with Brian were allocated to the planning department for planning specific projects.
What about,
but can we, sorry Patty, can we reallocate that money? I mean, can we reallocate that money by council vote? Brian's
you
getting
cannot.
up.
I do not believe you can,
We-
but if you can see, there's going to be an urgency to do projects. Now, we invested nearly $1 million on Main Street. We've also, we bought park benches, flower pots, big ones, planted a big tree, you know, Saugatucket. This was just meant like, let's, you know, we
Right.
need to do something with that.
what about
I
like water fountains?
So-
Or some, you know, like where you can fill your water bottle, like they
Oh, a
have
bottle
at the
filling
schools?
station?
Could we like add a bottle filling station to like that where the restroom is? There's one right there. There is? Okay.
So,
Wait, before we get off the clock, I just want to
we
kind of
just-
focus there.
I
Go ahead. I have a few more questions about the infrastructure monies, but go
yeah,
ahead.
so if it's for streets, people are gonna say some of the roads are pretty bad. And so taking the 191, could we use it for pave more road? Second thing, we have human service agency grants that people come and we turn people away. And I'm not saying whatever, but that's 191,000 is 3 cents on the tax roll, right? So we could choose to change it knowing, no.
No, we
Could we
cannot. There's
allocate
not
some-
flexibility there.
What
We've
about,
already
like-
dedicated the funds to a
Then
specific
I
purpose.
then I personally, I like the clock, but I would rather improve a road, extend what we're paving, pick another road and have Rich use that 350 and the 191 and do another
So
section
if
of
I could
road.
just go back to the allocation quickly. One of the requirements of the federal program in order to secure the money is we needed to make a full allocation to projects. That was interpreted to be specific project allocations either to, you know, brick and mortar or a department for specific programs. So when it was allocated to the planning department, it was under the Main Street kind of improvement nomenclature. With regards to street improvements or paving, those streets associated with our two downtowns being Paystale and Main Street are state roads. So you would be giving the town's money to the state to pave a state asset. So again, we're trying to look at how we can use this to the benefit of the community, kind of sidewalk in.
Is there
Or curb
anything
in.
from the BPAC wish list that we could allocate some of this money to do some small projects to improve the streets, considering that we were overlooked completely for the Safe Streets grants? Could we somehow?
There have been some internal discussions about potentially lighting in the downtown Saugatucket Park area, about some streetscape associated with that. So again, we have 191,000. We still have other funds that could become available. So, you know, in proportionality, the clock is 10%, a little over 15% of the $200,000 that may be available. So there are other things we are exploring spending the money on. The difficulty is we need to spend the money relatively quickly on projects ready to go. We explored with the state of Rhode Island looking at improvements to High Street and Main Street and Richardson Plaza, but there were a lot of moving pieces to that. We're still going to continue to explore that, but we may not be able to pull that off in the next 9.5 months.
Do you
We can
think
buy
you could-
benches, we can buy more
Lighting?
planters, we can potentially buy lighting, you know, but it's lighting, installation, providing power, specifications, requests for proposals. There's a lot of things going into that versus just doing an RFP for someone to supply a clock and provide power to it. Similar to buying park benches or planters, you can buy them and place them relatively quickly.
It would be really awesome.
But I get that it's easy to buy a clock. it's the fastest way, but I don't necessarily think that's the best use of the money.
No, so there are other things in the works that we're working on. Luke Murray's working on improvement to the memorial in Robinson, War Memorial, right across from DeStefano building over there. That's a very awkward intersection, safety improvements there. So we're looking at spending that infrastructure money maybe there. This is just a piece of it. This isn't everything. Someone asked, thought it was a good idea. If you guys want it, great. If you don't, fine. But we are looking at several other areas of improvement with this money.
So Jamie, it's fast to order the clock. What do you, like, so what if we didn't vote tonight and we said, working on other things, when's the drop dead point if we had to buy a clock? March 1, April 1? Like, what are you saying?
That I don't know. Again,
Okay.
we can explore, even through an RFQ process or an RFP process, and put it out there of what a clock would cost. It doesn't commit the town to actually spending that money. It gets us a better number.
I'm in favor of that.
I see no harm in doing that. I do have a few more questions about the infrastructure bank monies. Sounds like you already have a plan as to the use of that, so the town's already been awarded that money. The infrastructure bank subsidies, sounds like the War Memorial on Robinson Street.
Yeah, so Luke's here. Luke, do you want Luke to talk about that?
We don't have to get into it too technical. I just want to get a sense. You already have a plan as to use the monies.
Yes.
And it's
We're
300.
we're working on it.
And it's
We're working-
350,000.
I'm sorry?
It's 350,000.
340 maybe? Is that right, Luke? 340?
Who determined that?
Yeah, so you're talking about the Robinson Memorial at the High Street intersection?
I'm just talking about the infrastructure bank monies.
So
We got
it's
340.
actually Commerce, just to specify, it's Commerce Corp money, okay? It was an economic grant for Main Street. So if you remember, we had done some designs with Weston and Sampson early on. One of the identified projects was the intersection of High Street and Main Street. The idea would be to reorient that intersection to be safer, but the result of that may create some open space at that corner, which the business community would really like. They don't feel like they have a community space on Main Street. And so that park, which you probably don't even know is there, it's kind of buried, would expand and be raised up to grade and prospectively be a little kind of plaza on the corner there. So that's the goal. We did receive infrastructure bank money, which was free and clear, is $50,000 through a community projects fund grant. That was very recent. That's for the Bell Block parking lot. What I'm doing is lumping those two projects together for efficiency, to hire an engineer and design team to design both those spaces. We'd come out and then we'd prospectively build some or all of the projects. So we're in process now. The RFQ for the designers going out. We're at the beginning stages of that project.
All right, that clarifies. So any monies that would go toward a clock would be whatever's left over facade improvement, the 191, or potentially what remains in this lumping of two grants, which amount to 340?
Correct. So whatever, if we decide to use the grant, then it would I think it was 350 originally. Yeah. It would be taken off the top if you choose to use the grant or the facade improvement residual funds. And just to specify as well, those funds were interdepartmental agreements. So Brian and I have talked extensively on this. It goes with a department, not a project. It still has to remain under planning, but can be carved out. But I would say that in general, the project, a road is not necessarily a planning department project. Parks, lighting, Main Street, all that kind of fits that purview. We can bend that. But I would say that we just have to be careful on outlying projects that wouldn't normally fit under planning.
All right, so as far as timing, the remaining monies in the facade improvement, that has to be spent by 12/31/26.
Correct.
And then as far as the timing of the spending of the two grants that you've lumped together, RI Commerce and Infrastructure Bank, that has to be spent by?
So the CPF grant, we'll be expending that over the next year. So I'll have to look back at the grant.
It's a little more flexible?
It's much more flexible, yes.
Okay. So likely if we do the clock, it's going to come from the ARPA remaining facade improvement, and it'd have to be spent by year end. That's sort of what we're looking at here.
I'm fine to investigate the clock, but I really would appreciate other options that are not that. I don't know what they are.
We know there's 191 remaining. We know it has to be spent by 12/31/26. We're potentially considering whether a portion of that could be spent on a clock, which I'm open to. I think I'm open to getting an RFP, see what the cost is, and then if we decide at that point, no, I'm okay with that. But I'm also would like to see what is the plan to spend the 190, inclusive of and exclusive of the clock.
There you go.
Can you get that to us at a subsequent meeting?
We can work on that, yes.
All right.
I
Thank
really
you.
like the idea of additional lighting in Saugatucket Park, because when you walk up from the end of Main Street up there, it's very dark, and I think if we want to potentially consider improvements to Saugatucket Park, maybe one day having a bandstand there, I would love that, but that's just a dream, but I think if we could have lighting, that would be a step.
The only thing I will say is, the $300,000-$400,000 we're kind of throwing around now sounds like a lot of money. In the municipal world of public projects, it's not a lot of money. When you start to talk about intersection realignments and other items like that, we may be able to do engineering and design, but as we do engineering and design, we'll be eating into, in essence, the principle of that money, and we'll be stretched for any construction side. So again, we're trying to look for the low-hanging fruit so we can accomplish and spend the monies, because I've always been tasked with, we'll look really poor if we are giving money back to the federal government because we didn't pull the trigger.
Oh my gosh, we
manner.
cannot give it back.
We cannot give it back. So
But it also
Whatever
means
we
don't
have
wanna
to
spend
do.
it frivolously
likewise,
either.
the lighting piece, when you say that, I know I'm probably taking the words out of your mouth, the bike path. There you go, because sometimes you say exactly what I was going to say. So the bike path is something that we've heard from residents that they want lighting on?
We're already working on it with DOT.
So we don't need to spend any of our money in that way?
Well, right now, we don't think so. I mean, we're just,
Or like repaving some of the bike path, like behind Healy's,
No,
where
they
you
didn't-
crash out right there every
No,
time
they
someone
didn't-
rides
They
over
didn't talk
it.
about repaving. It's mostly lighting at the intersections, white lights, so, you can see crossing the stop signs that, blink when by motion and stuff like that. But we are working on that on a different silo with DOT. Jamie's working on that as well. So
I think we should buy a troll, but that's just me.
We can't buy a troll.
All right, so-
I think we're on the right, I think Rory had a great summary. We want to look at the clock, moving that forward as what does it could cost, and then a list of projects inclusive and exclusive of the clock that we could consider with the 191.
Correct.
I think that was great.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. All right, that's now going to move us to the public hearing.
Council President, just one last thing. Just take 1 minute. We had a major storm yesterday, about 16 inches of snow, 12 to 16 inches, some of it heavy snow. This town, the town staff stepped up times 10, and they deserve some recognition that I feel inclined to give them. The DPW, they worked 24 hours straight. Parks and Recreation, same thing. They worked on all, the sidewalks, and they're still working on this. The facilities, they were here at 6 o'clock this morning, shoveling out everything. That's why the parking lot is wide open. Police, EMS, Union Fire District. There were 2 calls that EMS went on where they couldn't get down the road because the roads had not yet been plowed because they were in the middle of that major storm. There was a coordination between DPW with big trucks, with big plows, plowing a path to get the rescues in to help save the people. That was very important and great coordination. But also, in the middle of the storm, you got wastewater and water working. You have so many people working in this town when everyone's sleeping at night, not really knowing what, think about if there was a major power outage where wastewater was affected in some way, or water. So we made out of it pretty unscathed. I know that we're still expecting some weather maybe next weekend. So I think I felt complied to just bring it to your attention how hard they're working to keep this town safe, all right? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
That's all I got.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to all town staff who have assisted in this endeavor of dealing with the 12 to 16 inches of snow out there. It is a bear, so thank you all for allowing free transport by people in town and taking care of everything while people are staying warm at home. All right, so now we're going to move to the public hearing. It's just before 9:15. So if you guys are up for it, we'll just move right to it. We can try to, move through it rather quickly. Or if you're not up for it, the option would be continue it to Thursday, and we'd sort of combine it with the work session of the homestead. I'm okay with taking it up. I'm okay with moving it, whatever you all prefer.
Would you like me to go over some of the numbers, so to reiterate what?
Yeah, we'll just kind of dive into it. Brian, Sylvia, come on up.
I'll just go.
Well, no one has said anything. So before we jump in, does anyone have reservations about continuing with this item?
I would like to know what the roads are like outside. I mean, it's been sleeting and snowing for the last 2 hours.
And
I see that it's, according to my phone, it stopped, but I don't know.
We got about an inch in the parking lot extra of, like,
Right, but it's icy and wet, so.
Concerned about my private road, which is definitely not going to be plowed again. So getting up the hill, you know, I don't want to be here for 2 more hours, for sure.
We'll take a few seconds before we start.
So-
We have had a work session on this where we've dove into this in depth. So we do have a fairly good understanding of what this entails. We've gone through the budget process before. We know what capital improvement plan is. We don't need to go through the 100-page presentation that we had already been through, which gave us the real nitty-gritty details of what we're looking at here. So if, I don't know if you have a lot of questions of what we've already been presented, but if you do, then sort of we can jump right into them. If not, then we can just get a quick summary from Brian and then move to the public hearing and then take this up. That would be the most efficient way to do it.
And there are a lot of our staff here as well as a member of the public, so I don't want to waste anyone's time.
so Brian and I choreographed this today to expedite this very quickly, so I'll just get right to the punchline. So Brian, we're on page 3. Last year, so February 1st is the deadline for us to do the CIP. So that's why it was so important to get here tonight to get this done. All right, if you look at this right here, this says it all. The adopted general fund pay-go funding for fiscal year 25-26 was $1.983 million. What we anticipated in year 2 for the CIP, what was forecasted, was $3.158 million. That's the second line. What the department request was for the pay-go funding for fiscal year 26-27 was $5.217 million. What the town manager's proposed budget for CIP was $2,077,000, which Brian found an area in facilities that we could reduce the amount by $20,000. So we're down to $2,057,000 as the town manager proposed CIP funding, which is a 3.76% increase. Question came up today that I think is worth bringing up. Councilmember Bergner called and asked this question. We gave about $6.8 million out of ARPA funding, it's a good question, to fund last year's CIP in many different ways. We accelerated projects over that 6-year period and picked projects that had a CIP balance. This is why we took the ARPA money. It had a CIP balance. We took the money out, replaced it with ARPA money, and got all the projects done in a very quick, leveled-off manner for 6 years. I truly feel that that is the reason we're able to fund or request for fund the CIP in last year and this year very close to what we spent in years past. Without that, we would have spent a tremendous amount more money over a 6-year period. Instead, we spent it up front, saved the money on the back end, and I do feel it's a good project. We took money out of the CIP, we committed another $800,000 towards Old Mountain Field. EMS, $400,000 that we had a shortfall. The patrol boat, $550,000. HSOA was substantial last year that came out of ARPA money. It was about $400,000, Brian, is that correct? And facade improvement, we took $1.2 million out. So the question was made, where did that money go? That's where it was. Also, a lot of heavy equipment, vehicles, big mowers, and stuff like that, that we purchased because we needed it and didn't have to wait the 5 or 6 years to get it done.
All right, thank you, Jim. Any questions from council members for the finance director, for the town manager?
I'm not necessarily advocating this, but a few meetings ago, we also had the discussion in the context of the CIP for public services on Kersey Road, and that, if I remember correctly, the figure was either $700,000 or $770,000 that was in the out years for sidewalks that the council had expressed an interest in. Is there any way to move that forward? And I realize that would affect what we're looking at here, but I guess the real question is, does the council have any appetite for looking at that, or do we look at other alternatives to deal with the traffic issues and walking on that road for the public?
So Rich Bourbonnais, come on up. Rich, before we dive into it with your perspective here, Jim, any thoughts on this?
So I know it's a priority because it's near a school. We have had discussions. It's a very costly project. It is about $700,000. Although it's in this, it is in the CIP, but we haven't put funds into it. So it would require the town council to either move some of these funds or add funds to the CIP to get this done. And Rich, I'll turn it over to you.
I would not suggest that saying that, well, we put it out to 3031 is suggesting that it happens in 3031. What we're going to do is we're going to try to find the funding so it happens as quick as possible. So we're going to be looking for grant opportunities so that we're not pulling from, our pavement dollars and these other things, and my budget doesn't go up by, 20%, so that I can kind of maintain a regular budget. But that may happen next year. And that's what the hope is here. I still have Saugatucket Culvert to think about, so that's another one that we have to try to find those dollars. So they can happen right away. They show in outlying years, but it's basically a placeholder.
You had mentioned the concern about the other project when you did the CIP workshop as well, and I'm not proposing that we push that for the Kersey Road project to tonight, but I do think that the council needs to revisit periodically what else we can do while we're waiting to find those funds. Thanks.
Go ahead.
I just have a question about the fair share development fees and the allocation of those monies. And I just wonder, I'm on page 7, and 7 and 8. So I just wonder if anybody wants to discuss that, how we allocate that money.
So
Well, this is a little bit of a legal question here. So we need Amy Goins' sort of advice perspective on this. But before she dives in, what do you got?
So, something to think about. That fair share development fee, there was a formula developed that's based on the value of the land, right? If you think about it, an acre of land in South Kingstown and an acre of land in Charlestown, they cost a different amount, but it's the same amount of money to build the house, right? It's the price of the land that is driving the prices here versus there. And then that fair share fee formula is based on the price of the land. So we keep, it's adding basically gasoline to the project. Every time you add a fee, you make the land more expensive. And again, you create that divide that we're always chasing our tail. We can set that fair share, it's a formula, but we could set it any way we want. We actually asked, did you do, Brian, the work to look at a one-bedroom or that's what Rory had asked you to do when we had this meeting a couple weeks ago?
I talked to Jamie Gorman, the building official, on this, and he gave me what the impact could be. He stated that the town has been averaging over the last several years between 15 to 20 building permits for ADUs, and that would be, if ADUs were pulled out of the equation for the fair share development fees, it would be a loss in revenue of approximately $60,000 to $70,000.
So, which is not, I mean, that's not a lot. I mean, what I was actually more interested in talking about was how we allocate the money. Like, right now, we have it going for, like open space and recreation.
This
and-
this one is recreation. Fair
Okay.
share is recreation, and
And affordable housing, is that not affordable?
that's,
Okay.
and the real estate, that's when you buy a piece of property, you pay stamps or
Oh,
whatever. And
right.
that's what,
All right.
that's money, that's affordable housing. It was 50/50, now it's just affordable housing. This is just fair share fees for recreational future. And it's driving, it's one of the factors, every time you raise the cost of land, the developer doesn't take less, he passes it on to the purchaser of the new property. This property where they're building an ADU, they've already paid a fair share fee originally when the house got built. And now they're gonna build an ADU for their mother.
I think getting rid of the fee for ADUs would be, at least, it would be a good thing, I don't think it would be that much.
Can we pilot something, Amy, for a year, or do we have to raise the fee annually? Like, why are we doing that?
Let's back up here. Now, first off, is it an ordinance passed by the council, or is this state law?
The impact fees are governed by state law, but we also have a local ordinance on the impact fees, how they're established and how they're allocated. So it's all in accordance with state law. So what is the question specifically that, does the council want?
There's a few questions. One of
Okay.
which, if we wanted to change how the money could be allocated, could we do that through an ordinance? Or is state law solid on that? We don't have the authority to change that.
The under state law and our ordinance, the fair share impact fees are limited to provision of school facilities and open space, conservation, park and recreation land, or facilities to meet the needs of new development. That's what it's limited to.
Okay, so not flexible in that, what it says there, we're gonna allocate it amongst that, but not beyond that. Okay.
Correct.
As to the fees that we've set up here, if we wanted to, either eliminate fair share development fees as it applies to ADUs, or B, provide like a third category for a reduced fee as it relates to ADUs, do we have the authority to do either of that?
I'll have to look into that
Either
specific
way,
question.
either way, assuming we did have the authority, we couldn't pass that tonight.
Correct.
Okay. But I think some
Why?
information that we wanted, because if we had the authority, it would be through an ordinance.
But
We'd have to have a public hearing, issue an order of notice.
I understand that part. But every year, we set the schedule of fees, and there's a formula. There's not a state calculation where the state of Rhode Island says, take the price of land, multiply it by 0.7, divide by your population. Like, that's not from the state. That's a formula probably developed by Steve Alfred. So that formula, it could be anything. We could, instead of it being whatever, 4277, we could say it's 3,500, correct?
So under our ordinance, we do set the fee schedule annually, and it's adopted as part of the capital improvement program, but it's supposed to be based on a needs assessment and based on the documented cost of town and school facilities. So if the question is, can we change it this year? Specifically for ADUs? Is that the question?
No,
Well,
if we just wanted to change the fee across the board arbitrarily,
Could we set
without the
fees?
needs assessment, could we do it? Because I assume we don't have that.
No, we don't.
And what does that entail? That would be a report from the school committee?
It's set forth in our ordinance, the process for the fee schedule.
Okay. But even though it could be done as part of the capital improvement program, as long as it's based on a needs assessment, could we still do it at a subsequent time, let's say 3 months from now, after the CIP has passed?
I think it's normally done annually as part of the capital improvement program. Whether you can do it 3 months later, I don't think so. I think it has to be done on an annual basis.
So I'm a little disappointed that we don't have one structured memo, and we're sort of all shooting from the hip, remembering back to 3 weeks ago, and then trying to make some changes, and there's no proposed changes. You're basically all telling us adopt as is. And I am saying to you, if you build an ADU, right, you are building an affordable unit, or you're having your elderly mother or your grown college student, whatever, young professional live there, there may be some tax advantage, but this fee then negates that. In simplest terms, you're going to get a credit on your taxes, but you've paid this upfront fee as part of your CO. So to me, we're not giving someone an incentive to build an ADU, to have their mother live with them, or whatever. So that was what the conversation was 3 weeks ago. There's not a lot of homework done here, not on our part. We asked for it. It doesn't seem like it's here, unless I'm missing something. And now we're going to have a scrum, so to speak, about where we're going with the fee. And now I feel uncomfortable because our back is up against the wall. The weather isn't good. This is all happening, and it's not doing the due diligence. This fee, people are building ADUs, and then they're going to be charged that fee, and it's antithetical to the whole big policy about creating more affordable spaces. Patty's nodding with me, so that's where I feel uncomfortable, that we're just going to rush it through.
All right, here's my question, Amy. If we wanted to exclude ADUs from being subject to fair share development fees, is there a means to do that?
I need some time to review
Okay.
the ordinance.
Okay. So we're not going to do that tonight, but hopefully if we wanted to, and we're considering potentially doing that, hopefully we can get an update at a subsequent meeting as to our authority of doing that, our powers there, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. I'll have an answer for you before Thursday.
Okay.
So my other question is, and maybe Jim knows the answer, is that in order to set the fee, there must be some needs assessment. There must be something done. Because how else would you come up with this formula that it goes up? Why is it going up annually? Like based on what? Based on the price of the land.
Brian, are you familiar with the needs assessment?
I am not, no.
Does the fair share development fees, does it increase over time?
It typically will.
Well, let me have you walk us through it.
Sure.
Because it sounds to me, anytime you want to make a change to fair share development fees, it's based on a needs assessment. But it sounds like you're unfamiliar with the needs assessment. So walk me through the process by which we increase the fair share development fees over time.
So I will update this little spreadsheet, this little calculation on an annual basis as part of the CIP. The two items that really get changed here are the estimated value of land per acre, which that changes every 3 years after we go through a reval. So that number had stayed the same for the previous 3 years. Now that we've gone through a reval, you're seeing it increase from 167,000 to 217,000. The other number that will change slightly, as you see on the bottom, the persons per owner occupied household unit, that is from the U.S. Census data that I'll grab on an annual basis.
And the fee is based on a per acre and number of bedrooms basis?
Yes.
Okay.
The whole Ponzi scheme of the
I would not refer to it as that.
No, the Ponzi scheme of constantly reevaluating. Every time the real estate goes up, then all the housing values go up, and then everybody raises the prices of their asking price, and then the next year it gets more expensive. It's very, very expensive because we constantly are reevaluating the land, and then people go, oh, my house is worth X, so I'm going to ask Y, and then all of a sudden Y becomes the new baseline, and then there's Z. It's a thing. Well, maybe not a Ponzi scheme, but it's a constant. Land is always going to go up. The real estate is always going to go up. When have we had a real estate evaluation where we're like, oh, our houses are now worth whatever?
Right, because
Maybe
we've had
in
cyclical problems
2008.
on building housing and many other reasons
But
for
when
that. You know what I
something's
mean?
predicated on the price of the land, we are, for what other reason? This fee goes up only because the land goes up. It's not like there's more need. It's based on a variable that shouldn't be there. It should be fixed. There should be add one person, add something, not adds now that the price of the land is factored in. I disagree with charging people $4,000 to build an ADU Getting a tax, it's a wash.
Well, Brian, if the land that's being built on, if it's less than an acre, is the fee prorated to reflect that?
This is just the calculation used to develop the fee.
And it's, like, the fee applicable to any development is based on the number of acres and the number of bedrooms being developed. We already established that.
Yes.
But if a development is on, let's say, a .25 acre, is that fee sort of prorated down to reflect that .25 acre, or is it at minimum you pay something
I don't
that's
believe
1
so.
acre?
The fee is collected by the building official. He could speak to that better, but I am about 90% sure that these are the two fees. It is not prorated. Yeah, yeah.
All right, then help me reconcile that with if you have 10 acres of land and you build a big home on it, right? It wouldn't be the fees that's just here, right? It'd be increased to reflect all that acreage.
Well, the fee is for again, I could let Terry speak to it because it's recreation or the solicitor, but the fee is for the.
No, not what the fee is for, the fee that's generated on the development.
Right. It's generated to provide revenue to continue to add services and provide services in recreation to the community. So whether you have a house being built on 10 acres or a half an acre or a tenth of an acre, that fee is for that additional.
Okay, let me rephrase, because maybe it's not clear what I'm asking here. The fee that we're looking here, it's a flat fee.
Yes.
Regardless of the size of the house and the size of the land that it's built on.
Correct.
Okay. So if it's a mega house on a big plot of land, they'd get the maximum fee as reflected on this spreadsheet.
That's correct.
And if it's a tiny home on something less than an acre or half an acre, whatever, they're going to get the lesser fee, assuming the bedrooms are 1.
That's correct.
Okay.
Good. Can I talk or ask Amy a question here? Because I think we're spiraling into an area we're not going to get an answer to tonight. Looking at section 1101 in the ordinances, the way I read that, and this is our local ordinance, it's simply mandatory and it sets out exactly what you can and what you can't do and what is exempt and what isn't. The policy question, which I agree with, about exempting ADUs isn't allowed under the existing ordinance that we have ourselves. So if we wanted to pursue that, we have to change the ordinance.
That's correct, and that's why I need to do a further research to see whether we might even need to request enabling authority from the General Assembly, because if the General Assembly is authorizing us to impose fees and it's per dwelling unit, even though an ADU is a specific type of dwelling unit, it's still considered a dwelling unit. So I need time to research this issue and write a memo to the council advising whether I think it's possible under our ordinance or whether we'd need permission from the General Assembly to have a specific fee for an ADU.
And if we can get that answer in short order, the session has already begun and we might be able to get it in this session.
You'll
I'd
have
be happy to
Yep, you'll have
take that
that answer
shot.
by Thursday.
Thank you.
And may I ask, if these fees were adopted, and then in 5 months, we do a enabling legislation, order of notice, public hearing, and change it, we can go back?
I don't think so. I think the fees are adopted and set only on an annual basis. I don't think the council's allowed to change it more than once a year. So if you got enabling authority from the General Assembly, if that was required, that would most likely take effect next year.
So it would be prospective for fiscal year 27, 28 would likely be the earliest we could do it.
Correct.
So just riddle me one more patient time. Can we go back? Can we at least hold the fees to last year? Because I feel like it's based on the price of the land, the value of the land. Nothing else has changed. We've done the property reevaluation, everybody's property assessments went up, so that fee goes up. Why? What else has changed? Nothing else. It's another fee and adding
What's
and adding.
what's the annual amount of revenue generated from the fair share development fees?
Oh.
Can you give us that over maybe 5 years? That's in the slides here.
So last year, fiscal year 24-25, the town collected $281,000, and on average, over the last 5 years, the town has taken in $269,000 annually.
And just to clarify, those funds go into our recreation department and no, they're not designated.
They go into the impact fees fund, which are solely used for the express purpose of recreation, but they are separate and apart from recreation.
My apologies,
Yeah.
but they are being used eventually to use for recreation.
That's correct.
And formerly open space.
Yes.
But no longer open space.
A large number was used within the last year for Old Mountain Field, for
Right, and
example.
Terry, you can shake your head yes or no, but some of these funds that we got from that fund, went into Old Mountain, right? We were using yes? Okay, so for the public, yes. So if we do change this, we're going to have, to look at the funding makeup for some of these projects. Possibly.
I don't think so. I didn't hear the beginning, but I don't think so.
Well, you missed a good conversation, Deb. Come on, what the heck?
Because now I'm in the town charter, because that's where Mike is reading from.
Good.
Yeah, just to clarify Amy's point, section C1 of ordinance 1101, now I lost it. All right. A town baseline fee schedule for school facilities shall be established by the town council annually for the fiscal year. So this is it.
So it doesn't say that it can be any fee that we want. It doesn't have to be predicated on this.
The ordinance does prescribe that a methodology for the fees is included in the land development and subdivision regulations.
Right. So every time we base it on the price of the land, we just keep raising the fee. Or it could be fixed.
So how else could you base it? What else could you base it on? A cost basis? I mean,
Just a fixed amount, like the beach fee, like any fee. Why does it have to spiral up?
I mean, it has sprouted up because of trends in real estate for the past 20 years, of course, but it's possible technically in 20 years we could have a market crash that brings our property values down. It's possible. It's probably not going to happen, but the metrics or the formula, as we've talked about, is based on property values.
I think there's also a balance here to consider. We're looking at it from the ADU perspective. We want to give someone a break if they want to build an ADU. But what about the developer who buys a large plot of land and puts up 50 houses? In that instance, we'd likely want to get the larger of the fees, right?
They do pay when they build their 50 houses, that impact fee on each and every house that they build.
Correct.
When the house that you're living in was built, maybe not, because maybe it's really old, but hypothetically, right? Somebody paid that impact fee. Now you want to build an ADU, they're going to charge a whole nother impact fee.
Yeah, but you're only looking at this through the ADU lens. There was 20 houses, ADUs built over the last year. How many other real estate development was there throughout town? I would
how many
think
building
far
permits?
in excess of the 20.
Right.
Right, so we've gotten
my
like
point is-
60,000 from the ADUs and 280 total, so 220,000 was from other houses. I mean, approximately, I'm just spitballing numbers here, but isn't that approximately right? Yeah, so it was,
Article 3.
I mean, what's that, like 20, or I don't know, I'm not going to try to do math on the fly, but it's not that much.
So I'm sympathetic to the argument about lowering it for ADUs. I'm sympathetic to the argument. About 3 months ago, one of our constituents called me. I'd never met him before. He was a friend of a friend. He's a young man that is at UFD, and he was calling me because he was his first. Was lucky enough to buy property from his grandparents. He was building a house on that, and he was calling and saying, "What is this fee? I can't finish my project because I need to finish this fee." His project was not an ADU, right? It was a first-time homeowner, and originally built. So he was having the same problem, right, on finishing the project. And I called Jim, and he explained it to me what it was, and I couldn't help him, right? Yeah, I just wanted to put that anecdote out there, that it's not just ADUs that are having this tax issue.
But that is the reason why I bring it up is because the ADU is really meant to increase the housing stock where different people can live here, not going to give a speech on it, but so that, to me, we have competing things. We're giving a tax rebate in some ways for the first 5 years if you build an ADU and make it affordable, but even those pay the $4,000 or whatever the fee is. So it is a wash.
Well, whether or not we can not have ADUs be subject to the fair share development fees is sort of a discussion for a later day. So, I mean, we're kind of wasting breath with that now. It sounds like we all have like an interest in doing that, but that can't be accomplished tonight. I would like,
So
I
let's
think
hold
we
the
should,
fees flat. Why can't
flat
we
as
hold
compared
the
to
fees
last
flat?
year? And then what is our methodology? How do we,
We're just holding it flat because we're not going to use the new real estate values, which have all gone up. What is the percentage? 167 to 217, whatever that
what's the
percentage
effect
is.
on the revenue generated? Could you quantify that quick?
They didn't do any homework.
I really can't because I don't know how many we're going to get from one year to the next. As you see, like just over the last 5 years, we've taken anywhere from 212,000 to 291. So it all depends on how many applicants pay this. So I don't really know the impact. That varies.
If you hold the fees flat, what's the harm? We can change them in a year if we decide to revise it, and all we're
Well,
doing
I
is
just
being
think that
kind.
right now, like, our funding, I mean, everything is really uncertain in the world.
Exactly.
I don't know that, I'm not sure that I agree with, I would like to get rid of this fee for the ADUs, but I'm not really sure that we should make a decision right at, I don't know.
So the property increase from 167 to 217 is a 25% increase in the price of the land. So that's why the fees have gone up 25%, right? 'Cause
That equates to the increase in the assessments across town as it relates to residential properties.
Is that a question?
No, that's as been presented to us by the tax assessor.
Correct. So we have the ability to set anything we want annually. We can hold it for a year and come back to it and have the town give us advice, do the enabling legislation, get the information if we need to do a public hearing and change the ordinance, but it sounds like it's a fee and we can hold that fee at anything we want. So
I think.
Do we want, I just think you need to look at unintended consequences of this.
I think Patty has a good point in that at a time when, we have uncertainty as relates to federal subsidies, we shouldn't be sort of arbitrarily cutting something that we look at and see, because we're concerned about the impact on the ADUs, when that makes up a small portion of the revenue generated here, when we're already talking to our solicitor about seeking out the means by which we can exclude ADUs from being subject to this. My perspective would be, we keep the methodology as is, it seems sound to me, and then move forward with the path of trying to exclude ADUs from being subject to it.
Well, I would pull this out and I would vote no on it. So I don't want to vote no on the CIP, but I want to make a stand that these fees should be looked at minimally. We should not be raising them because these get passed on to the people who either build an ADU or build a home. And the builder does not take it on the chin. They pass it on. So I would like to hold them flat and leave them at the 25, 26.
All right, I do want to ask about the real estate conveyance fees. I believe annually we decide how to allocate that, and at least the last year or maybe two, we had 100% of that going to the Affordable Housing Fund. I would like to continue to see the amounts generated from the real estate conveyance go toward the Affordable Housing Fund. And absent any act by the council, does it remain that allocation, or does it revert back to whatever it was prior?
What has been proposed within the document is we base it off what the council had adopted within the last budget. So until the council takes other further action to change it, what's proposed in front of you tonight is the portion going to the general fund to support operations. Minimal amount is $35,000 to cover the cost of open space debt, with the balance then, or $493,000 going to affordable housing.
Okay. All right.
I've been reviewing the statute, and I do have an answer for the council. on the question of ADUs, there is language in the statute, and this is 4522.45, subsection E. It does say nothing in this chapter shall prevent a municipality from granting any exemptions that it deems appropriate. That language to me allows the town to exempt ADUs from the impact fee, but you would need to change the ordinance to do so.
So timing-wise, because this CIP needs to be
It's
passed by
too
February 1.
late for this year.
Okay. Okay. All right, any other thoughts on the CIP? From anyone? All right, this is a public hearing. So anyone in the audience who wishes to speak, I invite you to come on up. All right, seeing none, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the public hearing is now closed. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adopt the capital improvement program as presented. I think in looking at the ordinances, I don't think we have any choice at this point, but we do need to revisit this in the future.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Good.
I think we need to direct the town staff to investigate and present quickly how the path is to exempt ADUs from the fair share fees.
We know the path. Path has just been given to us.
I'll follow up with a written memo to the council on this.
Well, we need, so then we
The
need.
path would be this. The meeting subsequent to this, issue an order of notice for a public hearing related to excluding ADUs from fair share development fees. I guess that would be only applicable to fiscal year 27-28.
Why though, Amy? Because it's a tweaking of the ordinance. Why is that going backwards?
You're adopting the ordinance, you're adopting the capital improvement program under the ordinance as it stands today. Perhaps the council could adopt an ordinance a month from now that's made retroactive. I think it's unusual.
Oh, we could potentially consider that.
On Thursday? Could we do it on Thursday?
You'd need to do an order of notice first.
Now, that would be the first meeting in February.
And councilors, if we were going to consider doing it for ADUs, then I would consider it for first-time home buyers or homeowners.
And that's something we can take up at a public hearing.
The first-time home buyer, builder, it's the builder. Right. If somebody is building the home, right? When you buy
First-time
the home,
home
it's
builder.
already baked into the price.
Yep.
When they charge you $400,000, not that that's happening, but that's already baked into what they're saying.
I went to the most usual, parlance I usually say, first-time home owner. I meant first-time home builder.
But the situation you cited is different than the ordinary circumstance.
Right.
And the ordinary circumstance is exactly what the fee is designed for, is when you take a vacant piece of land and you then put a house on it, presumably there's going to be families and children going to schools and more people using the facilities, people using EMTs, the fire protection, all of that. And that fee incorporates that concept that you now have new people using those facilities. It's no less true for ADUs, I get that. But you're negating the reason to have any fee at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, but it also could be for URI students, right? That empty property could be built, it could be immediately. My point is that I think that if we're going to look at ADUs, either freezing those prices and all that, then I think we should also consider it for first-time home builders, and that's just my suggestion. That's all.
I just want you to know that I may not vote for the CIP for the purpose of being clear that we continually raise fees where this could be level funded for a year, the same fee as we've done for the last 3 years. And you don't want to, and I feel like that's, again, it's a pass-on cost, and what we're trying to encourage gets discouraged. And so I don't want to not vote for the CIP, but I don't want those fees to go up, so I may just make a vote for, just to illustrate that I don't like where this is headed. So we can hold them flat. We can.
Andy, is she right about that? That we can hold them flat today?
You know, the enabling law authorizes towns, cities and towns to collect impact fees according to a certain needs assessment and methodology that's predictable. To the extent that to the extent that level funding is in conflict with that, I think it could leave it subject to question. But is it legal? I'd have to say it is legal for a town to not collect as much as it could.
The fee is set on the price of the land. So the formula, the needs assessment, whatever it is, incorporates the price of the land. We could say the formula is just going to not reflect.
What's it based on then? It's not based on the price of land. What is it based on?
It's based on the price of the land.
Is it? It is now, but if we...
It was. It's just based on the previous real estate property values. The price of the land was $167 per acre. We could hold it flat. That was what it was. It's been
Okay,
flat
so
for 3
then,
years.
under that methodology, next year would increase to the 217. Because
No.
the methodology is based on the value of the land in the prior year,
No,
and we'd
it-
also have the increase in the subsequent year.
No, it goes up based on the property tax assessment. So whenever that is, every 3 years. So this is the same, Brian said, for the last 3 years, we're going to have a new one, and then it's going to flip. That's what this is.
I think there's problems with reconciling keeping the fee flat with having a predictable methodology as to how to base the fee on.
You can change
If you
it
kept
next.
it, kept
you
it
can
flat
change
this
it.
year, you'd have a problem with that. That's how I look at this.
I disagree, but
So let's sort of like look at the big picture here. We have a lot of new construction going on in town. And, you know, we hear a lot of feedback on that a lot of the time, that maybe we're doing too much construction. And so if we hold these fees flat, then what are we essentially encouraging? I mean, that's one of the things that you also have to consider. We have goals that have been set for 2030 as far as housing goals, and we're pretty much exceeding those goals right now, it looks to me, in 2026. So I'm not sure that we want to sort of, you know, embrace unbridled growth to the extent that we're going to lower our fees.
we're not lowering the fees. We're holding them flat.
Well,
And-
I mean, you know, that's just my perspective, because we
So
hear all the time.
And we also hear from builders who say it's very expensive and cumbersome to get anything done in South Kingstown. So you could argue both sides, the planning process, to build something, and the fees. Every time, I'm gonna say it for the 5th time, though, we can move on. I'm happy to not win this point. I'm voting no to make the point that those fair share fees continue to rise. It contributes to the price of the rising home that gets built here. And so it is antithetical for the fees and the ADUs for what we want. It's fine to vote 4-1. It really is. I'm okay with it. I'm just
I
making
agree
the
with
point.
you on the ADUs, but I don't see that there's any way for us to.
Well, we can't change the
Change it for this
ADUs, but
year.
we could hold it flat, and it's for a year. It's not for 3 years. It's for 1 year.
All right,
That's all.
we've exhausted this. We've discussed this at length. We do have a motion, we have a second. I don't think there's anything more really to discuss on this point. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
No.
All right, that passes 4-1. It's now going to bring us to public comments. If you haven't had an opportunity to speak and wish to, I invite you to come on up.
Libby doesn't speak.
All right, now we're going to move to item 13, communications. A is an email dated January 16, 2026 from Richard Morrissey, tendering his resignation from the Affordable Housing Collaborative Committee effective January 31, 2026.
I make a resolution that we accept Rich Morrissey's resignation. Rich has been an active member of Habitat. He's been here many, many times educating us. It's a huge loss to not have him as a resident and a contributor on this committee. So we direct the town clerk to send him a thank you and note his continual education is welcomed back to the council. Thank you.
With hearty thanks. Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Thanks, Rich.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes.
Motion to adjourn.
We got a motion to adjourn. We got a second. Any discussion? Are we sure about this?
Yep.